I couldn't write them quickly enough. And in that moment, I realized that vision of walking on the beach was missing the point. The love that I had every minute of every day was right under my nose, and I was looking externally for it. That probably saved our marriage.
A warm welcome to Our Spirited Life, the broadcast for women who simply won't settle. This season, we're talking about life in our third act, indeed owning our third act, which sometimes isn't as easy as it sounds. Now, this morning, it is with great pleasure that I welcome Anne Malloy. Anne describes herself as an ordinary woman, meeting her growing edge, and I'm fascinated to learn more about that later. She's currently studying Transformational Coaching, and transformation is a fabulous word. Has until recently taught belly dance to the over 50s and worked as a manager in financial services, so quite a cross-section of skills there. She has, like me, been married 3 times and has now, in her 50s, found real love. Welcome, Anne. It is so lovely to have you with us today, especially to talk about finding love. I am fascinated by your phrase, growing edge. What do you mean by this?
Hi, Susie. Growing edge. Well, part of our coaching, when we reflect back and give people kind of what they need to practice, it's called a growing edge. And I love this phrase because for me, it means that we put ourselves out of our comfort zone. And that edge where we just meet the uncomfortable, the bit that makes our hearts beat a bit faster, the things where we feel, I don't know where to go from here. This is really scary for me. And that's what we call our growing edge. It's just at the edge of your comfort zone.
Oh, that makes complete sense to me because I have been taught many years ago, and I completely understand that life begins at the edge of or outside our comfort zone if we can find a way and support to step outside of our comfort or indeed our familiar zone. Because I know that many are more willing to stay in their comfort or familiar zone, even if it's a painful place to be. And I think you have to sometimes go through that pain and go deeper in order to grow. So I hadn't heard that phrase before, and I absolutely love it. So I'm very interested to know why, and I hope you don't mind me asking, why did you separate from your previous partner? That was your third marriage, yes?
That was my third big relationship.
Okay.
We weren't married. And we kind of, when we got together, said, we're going to stay together as long as it works for us.
Oh, that's fair.
And we were both happy with that. I think the reason he said that was because he was never really wanted to be 100% in the relationship.
Oh, okay.
Always felt that he was just hiding something, holding something back. A really lovely, lovely man, but I never really felt as if I truly knew him. When we got together, it was great. We moved from London to Cheltenham together, started a new life. We were both in very similar jobs. He was in an office job 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and so was I. So we would come home Friday night. It's Friday, it's the weekend. We'll go and do something together. We'll moan about how difficult work has been. And then I was made redundant, and I discovered belly dance. As a teacher, I've been doing it as a hobby, and my life changed. I changed. I became more in tune with who I was in my physical body, in my emotional body. And I started to, it just absorbed me.
Oh, that's lovely. I because you separated in 2013, didn't you? And so I've also heard you call the belly dance Egyptian spirit dance. And when we sat down and you first told me about it, I was blown away by your knowledge about the background behind belly dance as we know it, because I think the common misperception is that it's about entertaining men. And please tell us what you told me those years ago about the real reason why women do this and how it started, because it is lovely. It's a lovely story.
It started women dancing for women. And that it's only really through things like tourism and necessity that women started dancing for men. There's a belief in the harem, and you have this television carry-on film view of men lounging around being fed grapes by beautiful women dancing.
Yeah.
The word harem comes from the word haram, which is forbidden. So no men
Oh,
would be allowed in the harem.
okay.
But women used to entertain themselves by dancing, keeping fit. And there was a special person that would go from harem to harem called an almeh. And she was a wise woman, a woman of spirit. And she would teach the women medicine, self-care, self-love, and how to educate themselves.
Oh, wonderful. Gosh, you know, this element of Eastern or Far Eastern spirituality and community. I can remember photographing some Asian weddings and the 4-day process that leads up to the wedding and the inclusion of all the generations of the family, the respect for all generations of the family. And I wasn't ashamed to be British. I love being British, but I thought, gosh, we can all learn so much from each other in this way. And with the belly dance, I remember you saying that the women sometimes would finish their chores in the kitchen or wherever for the day, and they would literally just all get together and dance for the joy of it.
Yes.
Love it, absolutely love it. So, was that a tough decision to stop teaching that?
Yes, it was a tough decision. It happened for a number of reasons. One of them was I got married, and I changed my name, and I was always known as Anne Blagden Belly Dancer. Yeah. And I identified with that. Mm. And I'd become Anne Malloy. Mm. So I was this different person in name. And there were some practical reasons. Do I keep my dance name and use that for dance? And I just felt disassociated to both people. I didn't feel I was Anne Blagden belly dancer anymore, and I certainly didn't feel like I was Anne Malloy housewife or wife even. And I thought this is a time to step back and find Anne.
I love that. And may I ask how old you were when you decided to do that?
This was only a couple of years ago, so 55.
Yeah, okay.
54, 55. It was a long process getting to that point and making the decision and teaching my last class, pass on my classes to one of my students who's still teaching and loves it. And so I've left a legacy, which has been amazing.
Fabulous. Yes. Yeah.
But it was a very tough decision to make in some ways, but just felt natural. The industry had changed, but there were a couple of major changes in my life. And one of them, a very dear friend of mine, we both know Yvette Cowles. She was an incredible belly dancer. She was my mentor. The person I went to whenever I had a dilemma, I would phone Yvette and go, what do I do about this? What do I do about? What do you think? And in her wonderful wisdom, she would kind of impart.
Beautiful woman.
Beautiful. And Yvette had breast cancer. She'd had double mastectomy, and she wanted women to see how powerful belly dance was and how you could still embody your spirit and your body and give to the world, even though you felt less feminine because you'd lost a symbol of womanhood, which is your breasts, through cancer. And she did a show called Sequins on My Balcony, which apparently the French call the bosom area your balcony.
Oh, of course, because you have the bra that's a balcony bra. I remember Yvette went on to, was it a BBC TV show about cancer? Because she fought her cancer for many years, didn't she? She never ever gave up. And I think one of the things that dance gave her was to be able to tap into the joy of that and to share. So she had an influence on, because sadly she died, didn't she? And so was that part of your decision-making process?
Yes, it was. With all of the changes in belly dance over the years, I kind of came in on the crest of the wave, and it felt the right time for me. And I think when Yvette died, there was a bit of that world disappeared, and felt very much, now's the right time. It's changed. It no longer serves me. It isn't who I am. And then with the name change and everything else, it just felt like the right time. But it's funny because Yvette plays a part. We were due to go on to a stage together in the Parabola. She asked, would I help out with a show for charity, her Sequins on My Balcony show. And it was all of the preparation. We had my troupe were performing. It was an amazing event. But on the morning of the show, I said to my previous partner, Alex, I just knew something was wrong, and I'd known it for a while. He was so unhappy in our relationship, in his life, and I was so happy. Morning of the show, and I sat him down and I said, so Alex, words and pictures don't match. You tell me everything's fine, but I just don't feel it. And then he said, no, you're right. I'm not happy. I never wanted to be in this relationship. I never wanted a mortgage and a house. I feel hugely responsible. You know, I want to change my job. I hate my job. And I want to buy a boat and live on a boat. And we'd had these conversations.
But was that a real blow, hearing your partner say, I never wanted to be in this relationship? I mean, that's a big thing to say.
It was a panacea and a curse. In one point, it felt like the first honest thing he'd to say. And I loved him for that, to be honest and open when I didn't want this. And that was the problem. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. You can be in a relationship for years and there's nothing wrong with it, but there's something not right.
Yes.
And just not happy. And what's happiness? And that was the moment. Then I had to put on my face and go out and do a show.
We women, we spirited women, we do, the show must go on. I had to do something similar, it was my last partner and we broke up just over a year ago. He broke up with me, but it was the right decision. And a few days later, I had to go on the stage at the Cheltenham Literature Festival and give a presentation. And the day before that, I think I'd cried about 6 times during the day in my pajamas. The very next day, you're up on stage in front of 70 people. But that's where we draw upon our passion for doing what we do. So then what happened? Did you put your sequins on and went out there?
Put my sequins on my balcony and went out. And afterwards, it was quite touching because he said to me, it was so hard because everyone came up to me and said, you're so lucky. What a beautiful woman. And he knew in his heart that our relationship was over. And
It's really, really, really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still really good friends. And
yeah.
that was the thing. We have a really good friendship.
Well, that's the same with me. It's the only one where we are great friends. He FaceTimed me the night before last for a good old catch up, and because we still care about each other.
Yeah.
And in fact, Carrie, who shared the stage with me, and she's in this series as well, she said to me when we were in the green room, I felt terribly privileged to be in the green room with all sorts of writers at the festival. She said, Susie, he was the bridge between all the shits and the one.
Yes.
And so it was that, and although it hurt like hell at the time, I understood very quickly that it actually was the right decision. And so I think when you can understand that even if you haven't made the decision, they've been brave enough to make it and it's the right decision, you can move forward and also, as you say, as friends.
Yes.
So on a happier note, unless there's anything else you want to say.
Well, he now lives on his boat.
Oh, okay. And you found love.
And he has found love as well. He's got an amazing partner, and he's happy, and I am so happy that he's happy. Yes. And that's why he's been amazing. He's been such a good friend.
That is lovely.
Really. So it was the right thing to happen at the time.
Yes.
And then you met Terry. So how did you first meet Terry?
Well, interesting. I was teaching belly dance at a holistic centre locally, and they just had a new website and wanted to get someone in to do some video of the tutors. And Terry and his friend Ian came in to do the filming. And so he struck me by how professional he was. Knowledgeable, and so there was no flirting. He was very focused, and I guess I just respected and admired that about him as an individual, as a person. And there was this very funny story. This thing happened, and how your mind plays tricks with you. We did the interview, and I was demonstrating and using some of the other tutors as students. We had this kind of mock-up class, and then there was what they call a talking heads piece in their library, where they did an interview. And he did the interview. I was talking about my Friday flexi with my older ladies and what belly dance gave me, and we kind of finished, but the camera was still rolling. And he turned to Ian and he said, I think she's the one. And I said, oh yes, that sounds interesting. And he was doing an event called Britain's Next Top Coach. And he was saying to Ian, I think she would be a great candidate to apply for Britain's Next Top Coach. So I heard that, but there was this lasting little voice in my head going, I think she's the one.
I love that.
And so I'm not sure if that was exactly what was said, but in my mind, there must have been this little gem for the future that was planted, that seed.
Do you know, and I'm looking forward to enlarging upon that story, because in the next season, you're both going to come on together, aren't you? And talk about a bit more about love, finding love from both points of view, and also the pitfalls and well, not pitfalls, but challenges that you have to navigate, because of course it's not just you in the relationship. So
it actually happened at that time, but it was when Alex and I had separated and didn't know what Terry's situation was. We were on Facebook. And he put up a post that was about a saying, and I said, great saying, thank you, Terry, and Rumi, I think it was, or Freud, or whatever. We started chatting, and me, being quiet, shy, and retiring, said, we'll have to get together over a cuppa and have a chat about it. Because he was an interesting person. And I'd said before, I loved his professionalism, and really, I admire that about people. So we arranged to go to Costa's at Waterstones in Cheltenham. And the cafe has a balcony outside that you can go and sit. And this is kind of serendipity. About 2 or 3 minutes before we were due to meet at 11 o'clock, the heavens opened. So when I got to the cafe, everyone had come from the balcony. Inside, there were no seats.
Oh, gosh, okay.
I said, oh, Terry, sorry, I've just looked, there are no seats. He said, oh, we'll go somewhere else. And we went to Cav House for our coffee. What I didn't realise at the time, his daughter was one of the coffee waitresses at Costa. So if we'd have gone there, we might not have been quite as relaxed and flirted a bit. And so it was meant to be. So we went, had our coffee, and I checked him out on Facebook beforehand, made sure there were no significant others.
Okay, good idea.
I was shocked to see him arm in arm with these two young, beautiful women who later turned out to be his beautiful daughters. So that was a relief. And so we kind of went for this coffee, and then he had a meeting in Birmingham that day. So last minute, we kind of said, oh, I'll walk back to near your flat with you. And then on the corner, he gave me a peck and he said, so we're meeting again? Yes. And he went, so I just want to be clear, is it a date or are we just friends? He said, because I have enough friends. I don't need more friends. And I said, no, it's a date.
Excellent. Excellent. I love this story. And I also remember you telling me an amusing thing about age. What Terry thought about your age.
Yeah, that was lovely. We started off our conversation in the cafe, and he was being his professional self. And it wasn't, I didn't realize why, but he had this thing that being a respectable man, there was a certain lower age limit where he didn't feel it was comfortable to be dating someone. I'd previously been married to someone 27 years older than me, so I had no boundaries. I was quite happy. And so he kind of was just talking to me nice and friendly. And then something came up about age, and he realised I was only just on the borderline, the right side of his limits. And suddenly he went, oh, I thought you were so much younger than that. That's okay, then I can date you.
But actually, that's a really good thing to have a set of values by which you live, because they are essential. And actually, it's the values, the mutual respect and the values that bring us together anyway. So has it been plain sailing, or have you had to navigate difficult waters during that relationship with Terry, both before you married and then since marriage and moving in together?
Yes, well, we've nearly capsized a couple of times.
Oh.
I remember once, before we were married, we were in the kitchen and we'd only been together a couple of months, so we were getting to know each other quite well. And we were doing the dishes. I think I was wiping, he was washing, and we just had a general conversation. I just said to him, oh, so what we're doing this evening? And he said, and suddenly he went quiet and a little bit off. And just sort of like, oh, well, I thought we talked about this. And I'm like, oh, have we? And he said, we're watching Strictly. And I went, oh, okay, I'd forgotten. And then he went quiet for a little while, and then he said, right, gun on the table, I've got to tell you something. I'm going, oh, wait for it. He said, I had all sorts of scary things going through my head. I thought, we've already had this conversation. I'm looking to just sit in. I'm a boring old fart. She doesn't want to be with me because we're just going to watch telly. She probably wants to go out. He hadn't realised I'd just forgotten what we'd said because it was in the morning. And having that honest conversation and realising all of the things we can make up in our head, our own stories. And then when we hear the other person's perspective, it kind of changes it. And there was something else happened. This was a year after we were married. So set the scene. You're married, you go off into the sunset and live happily ever after.
Oh, yeah.
So a year in, I was doing some vision board work where you do some pictures and you manifest what you want to show up in your life. And as part of this, there was a vision in my head and it was romantic. It was me and my beloved, hand in hand, walking along the beach, sunset. We turn, we look at each other and we kiss. And it's that magical moment. And I really wanted that.
Yes.
So I got
Sounds heavenly to me.
So I got a card and I wrote in it as if it had already happened, posted it to myself to arrive 2 or 3 days later to kind of bring it to the house. And I was kind of feeling a little bit, well, we're married. This is supposed to be bliss, isn't it? It's supposed to be romantic and happily ever after. And I was just feeling he was working really hard. He had a driving job, which took him away different hours of the day and night. He also had a personal and professional project he was working on. We just weren't seeing each other and communicating. So this card arrived, recognized the handwriting, opened, looked at the picture, and nothing happened. I felt nothing. I didn't feel this love. I didn't feel anything. And I just thought, what has gone? You know, what's happened?
Oh, that must have been such a scary moment.
Has this relationship had done its time? Is it? And for some reason, I thought, what I need to do is to just write down every time Terry does an act of kindness towards me or thought me. And we've sat at the dining room table. It was only about 10 o'clock in the morning and Terry come in, he was joining me kind of for breakfast. And he said, what are you doing? You just keep writing. And I burst into tears. And he said, what? And I said, I decided to write down every kindness that you show me. And I said, I can't keep up because so many. You brought me a cup of tea when I was in the bath this morning. You kissed me on the head when you were wiping the dishes. You wiped the dishes. And it was just, I couldn't write them quickly enough. And in that moment, I realized that vision of walking on the beach was missing the point. The love that I had every minute of every day was right under my nose. And I was looking externally for it. That probably saved our marriage.
Oh, that is lovely. It's the communication, but it's also the understanding of how you and your partner give love. And love is doing all of those little things. You know, we show love, and I have a similar dream because, you know, you and Terry give me great inspiration and hope. I don't think it's ever too late. I'm considerably older than you are, and I still know that my one is out there somewhere. We just haven't met yet, and we will meet when the time is right. And I have this dream that maybe after a couple of dates, you know, he will. It's my vision is that he's going to take my face in his hands and look into my eyes and kiss me. Maybe after we've danced around the kitchen arm in arm a little bit, you know, and that's that vision that I want. But that may never happen. But like you've just described, that doesn't mean to say that I am not loved truly, madly and deeply. And that's another film which I'll put on the list for this, because if people haven't seen it, it's fantastic. It's sad, tragic, but beautiful at the same time. So, okay, I love your stories, Anne, and I know you have many more to tell. And I'm also absolutely thrilled to say that it is actually Terry who is the producer of our videos for Our Spirited Life. And the two of you are going to come on next season and talk further about finding love in your 50s and 60s, because it's a very important element of our lives. And I think for me, and this is my driving passion, is to help people come towards self-love, because I think we need to do that before we can draw in the external love. But that's another story. So we're all learning as we go through life. So do you think learning is for life? Do you? I pretty much believe that you do.
Absolutely. An example of this, part of the relationship problem I had with Alex was that we had money problems. I didn't have the confidence to look at our finances. I had a bad experience at school, which meant that I was put off maths.
I used to write poetry in my maths lessons.
Yes, I know.
Behind the big textbook until I got sent to the headmistress. They didn't quite cane you, but my God, they humiliated you. But
humiliation.
So the maths thing, and then we get a mental block. I can't do it, and that
That's
stays with us.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say? You had a bad experience that put you off maths?
Yes.
Are you prepared to share that or not?
I remember being in the classroom. I was partially deaf as a child.
Okay.
Teachers didn't realise I lip read really well, but I was put to the back of the class because I was a daydreamer, which meant I learnt even less. And we were given these maths tests, and I completed it slowly. And I remember the teacher going, "Come on, slow coach, hurry up. Oh, you're keeping the rest of the class waiting."
Oh, Lord.
So I finished up, gave it in, and I did okay. I probably had, say, 7 out of 10 right. And then she gave us another test. And I thought, right, I know I'm going to do it quicker this time. I don't want to be humiliated. And so I finished with everyone else and handed it in. And because I'd rushed it, I hadn't done as well. And she went, "Oh, bottom of the class this time." And in that moment, I thought, I am not going to win here. I'm either too slow or too thick. And it made my decision that I was dull. I was too thick. And for years, I would avoid maths. I've given up jobs because of it. I was doing a little sandwich job part-time and making sandwiches. And the day they said, "Tomorrow, we're going to put you on the front counter," handed my notice in and left the job because I thought, I can't handle cash. I go blank. I'll panic. And so it's always been an effect. And beginning of 2020, I had a letter through the door saying that I'd passed my maths O-level.
Oh, amazing.
And it's probably the most significant certificate I've ever had, because I was determined. I was sick of hearing myself saying, "I can't do this." It was time to put up or shut up.
And confront your demons. And actually, we don't do these things because of that, but to show those who have humiliated you in the past, this isn't who I am. You gave me that message, and actually, it's not correct, and I can do this. So, so how old were you when you got your maths O-level?
56.
Brilliant. So yeah, it never is too late. And I do hear that those people who are, I think the people who are excellent at maths, I think maybe even have maths A-level or in the top sort of 5% in the country or something. But now we have calculators and smartphones and that can do all of these things. But I think it's a certain type of brain. And I was talking yesterday, I had a Zoom with a chap who's a business coach now, but had a degree in maths. And he asked me a question he said, okay, so he starts with to teach people about sales and about the blocks that we have. And he said to me, "I'm going to ask you a question. What is 3 squared times 3 squared? Well, of course, I just shook my head. I said, "No idea, I can't do that." And then he said, "So what's 3 apples times 3 apples? 6 apples. So 3 squared times 3 squared," he said, "is 6 squared," or something. I can't do. But he was illustrating that we make difficulties where there are none because we get this brain freeze. And it was really, really interesting that he, as a mathematician, is a problem solver. And maths, it's just a series of problems to be solved. And that's why he uses that to illustrate the problems that can be solved. You've probably already told me this. So the advantages and disadvantages of starting something new in later life, how do you feel about that?
Certainly in relationships, the thing I think is an advantage is all of this wisdom and life experience we bring to a relationship. I know that I am more confident.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more sensual. I'm able to bring something to our physical relationship that is a deep presence and vulnerability. And I think that's something that I've learned, and certainly what I'm doing now with the coaching is helping that. I'm able to form a deeper connection with someone. And I kind of got over myself a little bit. I think what I noticed about my belly dance students, why I love teaching the over 50s, I found the youngsters were quite self-conscious, quite image conscious. And a lot of my ladies who were in their later life were kind of like, oh, I'm past that, love. I'm going to just go for it. And so, yeah, I bring something much richer to a relationship. And that's why I always say I've had 2 good marriages and a good relationship, because they have all helped teach me to be the person showing up today.
That's beautiful. And I think it's partly because you've chosen to learn from them, and you've chosen to grow from them. And I know that very sadly, relationships can leave people, men and women, feeling very embittered and saddened and not wanting, and then blocked for further relationships. But change is available to everyone. And is that one of the reasons why you went into your transformational coaching?
Yes, another part of the giving up the dance was it had given me so much. I suffered with bulimia in my early 20s. And I had a relationship with my body that was the enemy. It was to be fought at every turn. And what belly dance gave me, it taught me to love my body in a way that it wasn't about how it looked, but it was about what it could do. I mean, we replace our skin every 21 days, the outside layer of our skin every 21 days. We pump X amount of gallons of blood around our body. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing thing. It feels, it senses, it touches. It's just so incredible. And we can move our bodies in an amazing way. And what I used to tell my students was, think of the dance moves as the words, but think of the dance as the poetry.
Beautiful.
Move our bodies in a poetic way.
Yes, and you feel it from within. I always used to love watching X Factor, and with the auditions, particularly in the later stages where they were very much more positive and kinder, which thank goodness that was a positive step to take. But I loved spotting the ones who I knew would go far, because they felt what they were singing from deep inside. Some people can have great voices, but if they don't feel it, it's a completely different experience to watch and to hear. And I think when you watch Strictly, you can really see the ones who feel it from within. And I think that's such a pleasure to watch, but it's also must give such greater pleasure to the person who's actually doing it and help them get over their nerves. And I think the same applies in life.
Yes.
When I'm doing a photo shoot, if it's a body confidence shoot, I sort of encourage somebody to get into a certain pose, and I say, now you're in that pose, but I want you now to feel it from the inside, because it gives a little extra something. And also, that's why they can be transformational. You said a lovely thing about the kind of coaching that you do, about looking in the mirror. You described that form of coaching, and I love that. Could you explain it to us now, please, Anne?
Yes, of course. So people say to me, so what are you talking about coaching? What is coaching? A lot of people associate it with things like sports, and they're getting you from A to B and how you get there. And the way I look at coaching is it's person-centered. It's holding the space for the individual to be whole and resourceful in their own right. And the way I describe it is, you get up in the morning, you go into the bathroom, go to the mirror, you do your makeup and your hair. The mirror doesn't tell you how to do it or comment on what you look like. You're using it as a reflective tool. And that's the role of the coach. We show up, we're present, we meet the person as they are in that moment, and we hold that space for the person to look at and reveal their own beauty and themselves and their possibilities and their capabilities. And that's why, after teaching dance, the thing that I felt was still a part of me that I wanted to explore, belly dance, I could dance into a room, and I did restaurant dancing for a while, and that was great fun. And you'd come into the room and you'd look around and you could suss out quite quickly who was up for joining you, who was shy. You'd have this lovely dynamic where you'd have a couple, and he'd look at me, she'd look at him, he'd look at his food, and you had this three-way kind of. And what it taught me was a very key survival element, and that's being able to judge people, judge them quickly, and that's a safety.
Yeah.
And the dance, it was vulnerability, it was showing up, but I felt there was another phase for me in vulnerability, and that's what transformational coaching is giving me. And I've really struggled with it, because for me, learning the coaching, I've always been the expert in the room. I've always been the teacher. And I'm having to be present. I'm having to listen. And I'm having to not judge. And that means that my survival instinct has to be dropped. And I have to turn up as myself and meet that other person as they are at that moment. And I'm having to learn that, and it hasn't been easy.
No. It's a form, I suppose, of confronting yourself and the pain that you've been through, in order to then come out to the growing edge and the other side of that, in order to be able to help others.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful choice that you've made, though. So the motivation to keep evolving, because you from one thing to the other, and to keep growing and learning, where has the motivation come from for you?
I think it's that growing edge. I have a little thing where I ask myself a thought-provoking question, either occasionally or at the moment I'm doing one a day, and I'm posting them and on Facebook with a beautiful picture. And it's things like, to you, where have you been most successful in your life? What shows up as success? And it opens up all sorts of questions. We tend to think of it, oh, well, I've written a book and I've been on television, I've done this. But it might not be, where you don't conform to the normal everyday, where you don't sit with that standard. I've got a big house and a big car and all of the trappings of what we deemed as success. But I showed up today. I sat with my mother who was dying. I showed up today and I was vulnerable and listened to my partner while he told me something I didn't want to hear. That is the true growing edge of life. And it's the bit that does make your heart beat a bit faster. It makes you feel alive. And so very much it's about being alive and pushing that growing edge.
I love that, because that fits in so beautifully with our spirited life. Spirit meaning the vital animating essence of someone, and you certainly have that. So please, my darling, do you have some top tips for finding real love in your 50s that you would share with our audience?
Yes, and I might blush at a couple of them.
Because I can remember, this isn't one of your tips, I know, but we did sit at the bar in the Ivy earlier in the year talking about sex, didn't we? And such fun it was.
I'll share that as a tip.
Okay.
I think one thing in a physical relationship that I would say for me, don't do anything you don't want to do. Certainly don't do anything to please the other person. Now that sounds counterintuitive because you want to please your lover, you want to please your partner. But what I found is it's not authentic. When you please yourself, it's authentic. You come to that person in that moment and you cherish them. You enjoy them, and you're doing everything that you love to do with that person. And what I've found is they feel that, and it opens them up to be able to do the same as well. And it's not a selfish act, it's a very giving act, because you're both confident and meet each other at that growing edge. And that's one tip I would say. Do what you love to do with a person. If you don't like something and don't want to do it, kindly say, that's not something I enjoy.
And are you talking about you're talking about being in bed, the lovemaking, aren't you? As well as other elements of in the lovemaking. Yeah. Because I mean, we can all enjoy a very healthy love life if we all choose to.
Yeah.
So yes, that is brilliant.
So that's one top tip. The other top tip, and it was Terry instigated this when we first got together. And he said, I don't want to make love for 21 days.
When you first met. So that is a value of sort of decency, his level. Okay.
Yes. And I loved that. It was respect. And I liked it because it was about getting to know each other as people. And he kind of believed in 21 days, you would know if you have a relationship or not. And you will have met some of your clash points or your touch points that you think, I'm not sure about this. I still believe that lovemaking is very precious. If you just give it away, then when you meet the next person, you give it away, and the next person, does it dilute that special moment when you commit to each other and it's like, yes, I want to explore this relationship further. So that's one tip. No sex.
It's not lovemaking, is it? It's just sex. And and I think that is a completely different thing. But during the 21 days, you do need to keep seeing each other.
Yes, and times allowing with to see each other, that sort of thing. But keep in touch, kiss, touch, hold hands, get connected, but not straight into a sexual.
No, because I've said, because some months ago, earlier this year, I was doing some online dating, and I felt that it's the most precious thing you can give someone or share with someone. And so I'm not going to give that until I'm pretty confident, that this person is stands a good chance of being my life partner.
Yeah.
And again, that's values, isn't it? But there's nothing wrong with enjoying life. That's a whole another story, and I think we'll go into this more when Terry comes on with you in the next season. So, any more tips before we go on to your song?
Yes, I think that something I found useful, if you're thinking of starting a relationship and looking for a relationship, then I would definitely say write yourself a CV of yourself.
Not a I want this or he must have for the other one, but for yourself. Oh, okay. Tell us more.
So what are you showing up with? Who are you? What do you like? What do you want? And be honest with yourself. Where are your growth areas? Where do you need to work on before you are ready for a relationship? You were saying it's about loving yourself first.
Yeah.
And it's loving yourself in a way, am I open for a relationship? Am I open to be vulnerable? Am I open to be prepared to take the rough with the smooth, to be honest, to be kind? Am I protected still? Do I need to open up a bit more? And I would say, write yourself a CV and look at it and just be honest about where you are. What that does is when you meet someone, say you're dating, it helps you in a kind way to tell them where you are in certain areas. It helps you to say, well, I don't do this, or I don't like this. This isn't part of who I am. It helps you get in touch with who you are and your values and what you're expecting from yourself in a relationship. And the last one is, don't stop meeting your growing edge. Be vulnerable, be prepared to show up. So those would be my tips.
I love that. And the being vulnerable, as leaders and entrepreneurs, we are encouraged to show an element of vulnerability because it gives us credibility. And we don't need to go into self-indulgence, but being vulnerable and actually opening ourselves to the possibility of love automatically makes us vulnerable. Because we all, and I think actually men, because I'm quite an old-fashioned woman, I'm 62, it was always the man who had to make the move. And of course, online dating, it's very much your team players in a way. But by the very point of fact that you are open to looking for love and receiving love and giving love, makes you vulnerable because there's that rejection element. And I think that the men who make that first move are jolly brave, actually, and I respect them for that. So you have chosen the most beautiful song. I did look at the lyrics, and I meant to write them down. Oh, I did. So part of the lyrics: under this pressure, we are diamonds taking shape, and a beautiful one: only I own me.
Yes.
But this is a love story in this song. So, Anne, what is it?
So the elements of it that really appealed to me, and set the scene. Terry does not dance. This is his kind of acclaimed, I don't dance and I don't sing, and I'm married a dancer and who sings in the shower and sings in the kitchen. So he was meeting his growing edge all of the time. And we went for a walk together, and there was something happened that made us start singing the song. And he started dancing.
Oh,
And it was just,
I wish I'd seen that.
it was amazing. I wish I'd recorded it. And it was great because with this clip, it's called Adventures of a Lifetime by Coldplay. And there's an amazing YouTube video goes with it where these gorillas are dancing. And they do this like little clap bit, and he'd seen the video and he was dancing around in the middle of the woods doing this, which was an amazing moment.
Oh.
And there was some of the lyrics that really kind of captured me. And one of them is, everything you want is only a dream away. We are legends every day.
Yes.
Every one of us is a legend every day. We are our own destiny. We are our own person. The other bit was, under this pressure, under this weight, we are diamonds. And when things get really tough and we just feel, oh, I can't go on, I don't know where to go from here, we are just becoming stronger. We are diamonds in the making. Another one is, now I feel my heart beating beneath my skin. And this is the growing edge, where your heart beats with, I'm alive, I'm moving forward. This isn't comfortable or it's exciting, but it makes you realize you're alive. The other one is, I'm going to hold up half the sky. I only own me. And it's, as much as we are in a relationship with someone else, it's our responsibility to show up. And I don't know if you know, but there's Mao Zedong coined the saying, hold up half the sky. And he was a revolutionary in China.
Yes.
He believed that women had equal status in the workplace. His ethics behind it may not have been totally, but to hold up half the sky is, we are equal in a relationship. We both bring 100% to this relationship, and that's our endeavor every day. So I love that, but I own me, it's my responsibility.
Yes.
And my favorite line, we only have this life and this adventure, then I want to share it with you.
Oh, that is definitely a goosebump moment. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Anne. I knew I would love this this conversation, and I really have. And so, our darling listeners, for more inspiration and ideas on how to live a truly spirited life, please just press subscribe. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, we're going to have all sorts of ways in which we can do that. I'll be writing a newsletter to accompany every broadcast, and I'm cheekily going to ask my guests to contribute to that, to perhaps dive deeper. And so all the details of how to do that will accompany the broadcast. So stay fabulous, stay well, and I'll see you again soon. If you enjoyed this broadcast, please remember to like and subscribe. And to enjoy fabulous extra value, just click the link to our membership page.